Hey guys, welcome back to another stream. I see you guys talking about God David and 14 Theory in chat. I do know about both of those. Um, I see. First of all, I made a video of my own about the idea of David Murray being the logbook altered text instead of the bite victim. I made that theory. And then people in the comments were telling me, like, he's getting closer to God David. And I was like, what the fuck is God David? And then I went looking and found it. But I actually, a few days after this, and maybe not a few days, like not too long after this, though, I ended up getting a bunch of comments on a video. And like about how this theory, like an old video of mine from like Security Breach Day, should have had like 14 times more views or whatever. And that was the day that Gibby and T-Dreads were streaming together. Excuse me. And I think they were doing their iceberg or whatever, and they found like one of my old videos about the like help wanted rooms, right? And then I ended up joining their call. I think I joined right when T-Dreads left, but like that was how, like, I'd heard of T-Dreads before, but I didn't, like, know much about, like, his views or whatever. What is wrong with my throat today? Jesus. But yeah, that's how, like, I learned more about his views and stuff. So, not too long after that was when I watched God David. Like, maybe, like a stream later or something like that. But, yeah, it wasn't too long after. So yeah, like, I do know about God David, because now I am, like, part of, I do have a really dry throat. I don't know what's wrong with my throat right now. I better not be getting sick right before Christmas. Anyway, I'm now kind of, like, a part of that whole theorist group. Like, there's a whole Discord server of it. There's, let me just name off a couple of the people that are in it. Not everybody, because there's a bunch. But, oh, hey, there's 14 people offline. Unwithered Truth, Withered Circle, Narrow Raven, Hyperdroid, Gibby, T-Dreads, even DJ Starfs in this group, in this, server. But there's Math, 32 people in this server. So there's a bunch of people here. And I'm kind of just a part of it now for some reason. I don't know when I was thrown in, but I mean, it's cool. They're cool people. I don't know everybody yet, though. I went looking for your stream where you watched that like 3 weeks ago. What? God David? Let me actually check. Which one was it? Had to be a FNaF related one. Let's see. Was it before or after Dead Aim? No, I think it was before Silent Hill F, so... Arkham games? Was it before the Arkham games? No, it can't have been that long ago. Was it FNaF Catch-Up Day? Or FNaF World and Chill? Might have been FNaF World and Chill. Again, I don't know how long ago it was. Is it this one?
Takes place in a world in the shape of
That's
a human
Gibby.
brain. Our quest is also directly stated to be to leave breadcrumbs for someone to find his way. There is a task for you to complete. You have to leave breadcrumbs for him to help him find his lava. The way that we...
This is just FNaF World. You know, the game is louder than my voice. Why did nobody tell me this? I guess not that one. Was it the one right before that? Might have been. There was Catch-Up Day 2, and FNaF World and Chill. So, let's see, was it this one? Can't say near some. This is Dead by Daylight.
That was the wrong thing to press.
Dead by Daylight was there. Okay, let's do Catch-Up Day 1 then. Theory Reactions is in the title, so
The Insanity Armor,
might
sir,
just be
with a
here. The Elite FNaF Theorist Discord server. There's a lot of people there, so.
One at the head of the table. The one that we all naturally assume.
That's game theory. So. Okay. That's me playing 5 laps of Freddy's.
This gets pushed to the algorithm.
I think this is God
and
David.
I make money.
Yeah, this is God David. It was FNaF catch-up day, theory reactions, 5 laps of Freddy's, and more. I'm actually gonna put the link in chat if you would like. If you would like to go watch that. There we go. See, the thing is, I don't believe Golden Freddy is the one you should not have killed, but I feel like the idea that just a random number is what proves it is funny. Why was 14 chosen? So the thing about God David is, it's an interesting theory, and I don't really have any sorry, saying any is a stretch there. I don't really have that many problems with the actual theory itself, like the evidence and stuff. The evidence is good. I'm just not sure it has to mean that. Having considered David Toysnick, you put the H in the wrong spot. No, wait, you didn't. You just missed the N. But I have considered it. I've considered the idea that maybe that maybe David is the game's version of Andrew. I've considered that. I haven't looked into it enough. Maybe one day I will, and maybe I'll make a theory on it. But as of now, I don't really think so. Especially because I think I think M1 probably killed David based on Moon.exe, not Afton. So it's too much evidence, Evan. Accept the truth. No. But yeah, 14 theory is funny. The thing is it like an actual theory? Like, do people believe it, or is it just a joke at this point? Or did it used to be an actual theory and now it's a joke? I don't know. It'd be really funny if that was intentional, though. The one you should have killed. I'm not the one that said it. I read somebody else saying it. Sorry about my mic. David doesn't seem very vengeful if he's the white tiger from Secret of the Mimic. Yeah, not really. I also wouldn't be surprised if the white tiger wasn't, like, literally David, and if it was just, like, agony from the Mimic itself. It's hard to say. Like, I don't really know if I believe possession of the Mimic, because, like, I can see agony, right? But I don't know if I believe, like, actual spiritual possession, because I feel like that defeats the purpose of it being a mimicking endoskeleton, because if it already mimics stuff, then having it get possessed by things in order to mimic something is weird. Like, I feel like the point is that it observes, and then it mimics what it observes, right? So I feel like if you have, like, David possessing the Mimic, it's like, why does it have to be a mimicking thing if it's just gonna act like David because he's already possessed by David? Like, that seems like it just kind of defeats the purpose of it being a mimic, you know? That doesn't mean it's wrong. It just feels like logically not very sound, if that makes sense. It's just pointless, in a way. What happened to my hair now? Is programmed to think like Fiona. I actually really like FNaF's theory on it, like with the mycelium men. I think that's a really interesting theory. I don't know if I like believe that, but I think it's interesting. If I'm with the idea that Glitch Trap is separate from M2, like what Rytos proposed, like it's M3 or I mean, I don't think that it's okay. I think Glitch Trap is M2, but like, he's very different from M2 in Secret of the Mimic, So I wouldn't be surprised if it's like if it is an M3. I feel like it would more so just be like an altered version of M2. It doesn't have to be David, but I feel like it makes more sense to be based on the fact that in the books, the storyteller which is the mimic, infects the animatronics and makes them act more childish, implying that it's the David personality that's affecting them. So that's why I think that M2 makes more sense to be David. But December 1st, Teacher has posted a whole audiobook of fan Christmas songs about Andrew being the vengeful spirit, and DJ Surf just commented, eyes. I think this is interesting. I don't think DJ Surf knows the lore. Like, I think he knows some of it based on, like, the book writing process for The Ultimate Guide 2, but also The Ultimate Guide 2 sucks. So, I think he just put in what he thinks, and then they didn't care to use it. But yeah, like, I think DJ Surf knows what's coming, but I don't think he knows the lore details of what's coming. Like, I think he knows what the next game is, based on, like, his slight tease of, like, the Abyss thing. But, also, I did see the Christmas album. I mean, they made that in that Discord server that I'm in, so I was thinking about making my own song, and then I didn't, and then recently I came up with an idea for one, and I'm like, damn it, it's too late. Possession of the mimic, and a conflict between baby's AI and Elizabeth's ghost. Within F3, William's ghost is fighting the AI. The problem is that the mimic is trying to mimic David, so if the mimic is also possessed by David, then they're not really fighting each other, then they're just doing the same thing. They're just both being David. So that's not really like an accurate comparison, if you ask me. Your song would be DLC. Do you think F10 and 4 is mixes? Yes, because she was the one that created the idea of the Cradle program, which is mixes. And the Cradle program is meant to keep the mimic at bay. Mixes is also meant to keep the mimic at bay. And what was I saying? And Fiona, F10 and 4, is in the Mix's machine. So I think that even if like the Fiona personality is kind of dissipated by now, which it may or may not have, even if it has, I think that the original code that was used for F10 and 4, like the original M1 code, is still in there, if you ask me. I wouldn't be surprised if like in Abyss or whatever, we end up like hearing Fiona's voice again. That would be interesting. But I don't know. I think it's most likely that Edward made M1. M1 created the Cradle program, or she created the idea of it. Edwin made the Cradle program when he was making M2, and then he couldn't find a body for M2, so he ends up putting M2 into the M1 body, so he takes out the M1 program and then puts that into the Cradle. That's what I think. Anyway, I haven't even discussed what we're doing today's stream. The title obviously says theory reactions and stuff. Why can't M1 be glitch trap? They do the same thing in SB trying to bring David back. See, it can. The problem is that Mimic in the basement is most likely the same Mimic as glitch trap, because in Burn Trap, if you believe Burn Trap is the Mimic, then Burn Trap is possessed by Glitch Trap. that whole same strain of the virus, right? So it just makes sense that those mimics are connected, and the mimic in like I forgot where my process was going. Anyway, what I was saying before is just it makes more sense for David to be the mimic based on the storyteller, and like the animatronics in that being more childish. And Glitchtrap being M1, it's plausible, but I feel like it makes less sense because Glitchtrap controls the Pizzaplex and then Mixes is set up to nullify the mimic's possession of the Pizzaplex, right? Like its hold over it. So that implies that Glitchtrap is like kind of destroyed, but he's still kind of around. He still kind of has his control through the mimic. So M1 being set up to stop the mimic makes no sense if M1 and Glitchtrap are the same character, because then it's just stopping itself. That doesn't make sense. Mimic being an acronym is dumb and was clearly a retroactive decision to theory bait fans. I mean, you could say the same about Mixes. Mixes now stands for Mechanical X-Form and Experimental Storage, right? Something like that. So, I think that was obviously kind of like theory bait, right? But now we know what it means. So maybe we'll know what Mimic stands for in the future, right? Anyway, today's stream is going to be not too long. I think I'll probably stop around like 5 EST or so, because I got stuff to do after. But my plan for today's stream is to react to 3 new theory videos, as you can see in the thumbnail, where there's the new film theory about the movie. There's FNaF's theory about the movie, and his new theory about sister location. These all came out in the last week, so I would have reacted to them on my like FNaF catch-up stream from like 8 days ago, I think. Would have reacted to them then, but then they came out like in the week following. So I was gonna do FNaF 4 today, but I don't really have enough time to do it justice. Whether I can finish the whole game or not is a different story, but I don't have enough time to try, really. Or to put in a really good effort for it, right? So I felt like it just made more sense to do this to react to those theories, then I can turn those into videos over the next few days while I'm working on other videos. And yeah, so I think on Christmas I'm gonna release a video on the FNaF 2 movie and my theories and stuff about that. And then after that, I'm going to release a video on Michael Afton and being Mike Schmidt. That'll be like its own theory video. And that'll be I don't know exactly what day. My current plan is the 27th, but I might like not be able to get it out by that day, because that's only 2 days after the last video, right? But I'm going to try to make sure that video comes out before the end of the year if I can. And then I have an announcement video that I'm planning to release on January 1st, but I also plan to release that on December 1st, the December 25th, and I haven't done that yet. So I might push that back more. I don't know yet, but January 1st is the current plan for that announcement video. And then after that, I have another FNaF movie based theory video, and then after that, I have a video about like what's next for FNaF, basically. So like in between all that stuff, I'll probably release more more of these theory reactions just as videos instead. Why are you doing a theory video on that? Like, is Michael Afton? If anything, it's a fact video. Oh yeah, I agree. I've decided to drop the words FNaF theory from my videos from now on, not because not because they're not theories. In this case, it's not. It's very much a fact. But still, it does need to be a video because people think it's not true anymore. But I think I'm going to start dropping the FNaF theory out of my titles and thumbnails. I'm not really 100% sure if I'll stick with that, but it just, I don't know. I just feel like it, getting to the point is what's more important rather than, like, specifying, oh yeah, this is a FNaF theory video. I think people can tell by the title, right? I don't know. I don't know whether that's going to be better or worse for the algorithm, so I'm going to try. I'm going to try it out, and if it doesn't work, then I'll go back to it. We'll just see. Same with the classics being the Wizards thing. Oh yeah, very much so. But that one I feel like is even more common nowadays. Like with people, like I think even more people believe that than people believe like that they're not the same than believe that Mike Schmidt and Michael Afton are different people. Like more people believe the Wizards are not the same anymore. So I've been writing that right now. I was originally going to talk about that in my Mike Schmidt being Michael Afton video because it was just going to be a video on like, oh yeah, these are two theories that the movie made people believe, but no, we had it right the first time. I was going to talk about both Mike being Michael, and the Wizards being the classics in that one video. But as I was writing it yesterday, I was realizing like this Wizards being the classics video, it's now 2 pages long. It'll probably be a full third about. Which is the same length as the classic, as the Mike Schmidt being Michael Afton video. Both are about 3 pages, right? So I was thinking like rather than making it one video, it made more sense to be 2 separate videos because I think if I make a video titled Mike Schmidt is Michael Afton, then nobody's gonna click on that expecting to learn about the classics being the Wizards. So I think it just makes more sense for that to be its own video so that people can search for that and then they can find it, right? Because maybe for some people that will be a more interesting topic than Mike Schmidt being Michael Afton, because I think more people believe that Mike Schmidt is Michael Afton. So less people would be looking for a video for that. So it makes more sense to have them be 2 separate videos. Plus, not to be like a money hungry, I don't know what I'm doing, money hungry theorist, but like I'll probably get more views out of 2 separate videos than just one. So. Well, no, I undoubtedly will get more views from 2 separate videos rather than one, so. It is just a different continuity. Well, it clearly is. I do think some things can... I do think some things can be used for the... like, from the movies to the games. I think some people... can, or some things can. I do think it should be taken with a grain of salt because we don't know, because it's an alternate universe. But there's some things like Mike not being Michael, the Wizards not being the classics. There's some things that are very deliberately a change, not a hint. And that's why I'm making those 2 videos, because those are the 2 big topics that are undoubtedly not true, that people have been believing are true now because of the movie. Pretty much everything else you can make a case for. Like, you can make a case for Charlotte dying at Fredbear's. You can make a case for her dying at Freddy's before Freddy's was franchised in 1983, and that Freddy's was made before that, right? You can make cases for that stuff. And Impulse 7 stream reacting to theories. Hey, Narrow Raven. You're sat. But I think you can make a case for that stuff. For the Wizards being the classics and for Mike being Michael, you can make a case for it, just not a very good one. And that's why I'm making videos on those ones specifically, because those ones are like much more, like, not really more popular, but they're more important to address, I think. Because everything else, you can make a case that it might be a theory that could work in the games. You can make a case for it. And it might be. Again, maybe Charlotte died at Fredbear's. Maybe she died in 1982. Or maybe she died at the FNaF 2 location. You can kind of interpret that in any way you want. But, like, that stuff can work in some way. These things can't. I'm making a video on these things because they can't. So that's my whole thought process with that. Again, I do think that the movie can answer, or not answer, but hint at things from the games and explain, like, how they work. Create new ideas, push us towards more logical solutions, but it doesn't mean that it's the end-all be-all. Some things, again, are very deliberately changes. And I think that and I think people are taking too seriously some of the bigger things that are very clearly not the same in the games. Charlie didn't die at Fredbear's for sure, thanks, Ticket to Fun. I agree that she probably didn't die at Fredbear's, but I do think it's still possible because people have pointed to the fact that on that page in Ticket to Fun, there was, like, FNaF 2 stuff. And in the movies, FNaF 2 and Fredbear's kind of seem to be, like, in the same boat, right? So, like, if Fredbear's doesn't exist at least, which we don't see it in the movie, so it might not be a thing. So in that case, if that is the case, then you could just say that Charlotte died at the FNaF 2 location, which happened to be Fredbear's originally. So she could still die at Fredbear's. And you can also just say that those wristbands were used at both Freddy's and Fredbear's since they're the same, like, not the same restaurant, but, like, same owners and stuff, so it's still possible. Again, that's not the end-all be-all. That's very, like, it seems like a very heavy implication, but it's not confirmed, if you ask me. Do you guys think Fredbear's exists in the movies? I don't know. Because we haven't seen it by the second movie, I feel like probably not. I think FNaF 2 might just fill the void for that. But I don't think that's certain. It could easily pop up in the third movie. But it just feels like the third movie sets up too much stuff, like both FNaF 3, FNaF 6, Fourth Closet, all that kind of stuff. Like Vanny, I guess, with Charlotte. But, like, I think because of all that, it seems like there's too much to pay off. And Scott and Matthew Lillard both said that this would be a trilogy, right? So they could do more movies after this, but I feel like if they do, it makes more sense to make them be separate stories. Rather than like a Five Nights at Freddy's 4, they could do like it's like a movie with like its own title. Its own thing. Or you could do a TV show anthology, kind of like what's it called? Kind of like the Frights books or something like that, right? So I think they might do more movies or more media, more content for that universe, but I don't think that there will be more movies continuing this story. I think we're contained here with the third movie. That's going to bookend this series. This like series of events. I don't think we'll get more. Like, I don't think we'll get a fourth movie. I think FNaF 3 will be the finale. FNaF 3 movie has to be at least 2 hours and 40 minutes long for the amount of things they have to explain. You know what? Maybe they can. Maybe they can do it. FNaF 1 set up 3. FNaF 2 put it in motion. FNaF 3 set up this location. FNaF 3 will put it in motion, I think. I could see them doing more. I just feel like they probably won't. Because, like I said, they said it would be a trilogy. And because they set up FNaF 6 for the third movie, it makes more sense that and since FNaF 6 is the grand finale, it makes more sense that they're doing FNaF 6 in FNaF 3. And, like kind of reaching a conclusion there. At least with this storyline. Whether Mike Schmidt or Michael Afton or both end up dying, whether they both survive and they go on to live happily ever after, I don't give a shit. But, like, I think this self-contained story will be over. Afton can still show up. Like, you can do a TV series or something with the missing children incident. Or, like, what's happening with the missing children incident at the time. Or something like that. That would be kind of cool. Like have it be like a... You could even have it be like a police investigation thing and like an Afton family thing. Where you see... Where both of those things are happening at once. That could be actually really cool. But, like, I doubt, like you do an aftermath of Charlotte... Have Afton do the missing children incident, have the police investigate, and then have like Afton and his family like come to terms with everything that's happening. That could be like a cool idea for a TV series. I think I would actually really like that. But I think that this whole story, like with Springtrap and stuff, I think it'll end with a third movie. Basically, my point is, I think they can do more content in the movie universe. I just don't think it'll be continuous movies following this same storyline. Also, where's Markiplier? Bring him to the third movie. Has to be. No way he's not. In the Flash TV series, incredible. Do it. Right, yeah, I saw you say that. I don't know if it was you. I think it was you, but yeah. Thoughts on the Withers and toys having spring locks? I don't know. I think the point there is that this movie is based on the Twisted Ones, where the animatronics go out to kill people, and they're springlock suits. Both the toys and the Twisted animatronics are animatronics that are springlocks and go out to kill people. I could see that being the only reason they did that, like to try to establish further the connection. Or I could see it being that FNaF 2 does represent Fredbear's, and Fredbear's is where the springlock suits originated, so they just made the toys do that. I could see that. If there is like a lore reason, like you could say the toys are springlocks in the games too. The Withers probably aren't, but you could say that the toys are. I could see that. Like, there's no reason that they can't be. There's just nothing definitive saying that they are. If they are, it would explain why Shadow Bonnie looks like Toy Bonnie, but also has 4 top teeth rather than just 2. Because it's like saying that that's an old spring Bonnie. Like regarding the spring locks, that it makes sense like why they would be the same kind of design. Like if the toys are spring locks, I could explain that. Again, I don't think it's like a definitive thing. It's possible there's spring locks in the games, but I don't think they need to be. Endo 02 maybe spring lock. I mean, it could, but I think the way that the ribs work, like there's no, unless they have like beams that can like stick out of the ribs and then fold or something like that, but I kind of doubt that. Also, springlock suits aren't really in like, well, they are, I guess, in the movies at least, but never mind. Yeah, that's fair. That makes sense. In terms of like the game lore, though, I like that's what I mean. Like, it could have some like relation to the plot of the games, but like I don't know. Again, it's possible, but there's no real reason to believe that. I know who Blackfoot Ferret is. I don't really know any of his theories. I just know he has some weird ones. But what's this? Okay. Someone sent in a group chat like a video about the Withers and the classics being separate. I was just looking to see like the comments and stuff. Might watch that later before I finish working on my video on it. Dude just pulled up the new fast track from the new album. That is not what I did. I was just checking on stuff on another video. Might watch it later though. Who do you think is older, Michael from the games or Mike from the movies? Jesus Christ. Well, Mike in the movies is 30, and Michael from the games, I mean, he's 30 at one point. It depends what part of the timeline you're talking about. See, this is something I'm going to talk about in my video on it, but I just want to say, the biggest thing that I think says that the Wizards have to be the classics is, back in FNaF 2's days, MatPat made his own theory on FNaF 2. And there's two really major things that he got wrong. Charlotte dying at Fredbear's, Phone Guy being Purple Guy. Those are two really big parts of that theory. And yet, Scott, and those were both wrong. At least Charlotte dying at Fredbear's is probably wrong. But both of those were wrong, right? But now, a year later, Scott makes a post saying, "Oh yeah, Game Theory did an incredible theory on FNaF 2. He got almost everything right." If two really big parts of his video were wrong, and he said the Wizards were the classics in the video, he said that they were the same animatronics. So if two of his really big points in that video were wrong, it doesn't make sense that Scott would say he got almost everything right if he got more than just those two things wrong. Because those were really major parts of the video. So if he got more than that wrong, he did not get almost everything right. Right? I feel like that's kind of too big for me to overlook. Like, in what world would he have gotten almost everything right if most of the theory is wrong? That's my problem with it. Do you think Michael Afton is still alive in the security breach era? Maybe. Can definitely see it. Do I think so? I don't really have a sneeze. I don't really have a solid opinion on it, but I think he definitely could be. Yes, it did say that. Yeah, and that's a big part. That's a big thing I'm bringing up in the video too. Do you think the FNaF movie may be telling us Michael is continuing Williams' legacy in the games? No, I don't. That's one of those things that I think is very intentionally meant to be a difference, not a hint. Crying Child's not confirmed to be William's son. Give me 1 second. Ah. Scared me. Lauren's just subscribed. Thank you. Sister location we play is Michael. Michael Afton. We learn in the logbook he's the player of FNaF 4. In FNaF 4 itself, we learn that Mike Schmidt is the player. Mike Schmidt and Michael Afton are the same person. In the FNaF 4 Nightmares, we have hints about relating to the Bite of 83, like the hospital stuff. The flowers, pills, IV drip. We get those in the FNaF 4 Nightmares. And we have Freddy and Foxy plushies as well. which the bite victim has. So the FNaF 4 Nightmares, we play as Michael Afton, and he has things in the nightmares that are relating to the bite of 83, meaning that and Michael Afton, they are in Afton. Sorry, they are one of the kids in the what's it called? In FNaF 4's minigames. Meaning they're the Foxy Bro, because Crying Child's dead. So, yeah, then the Crying Child is the brother of Michael Afton, therefore he is an Afton. There's also the fact that the whole facility is underneath Afton's house. Sorry, underneath the FNaF 4 house, meaning it's probably his house. Afton is controlling the Fredbear plushie, as we see in the private room. So, it just makes more sense that it's his child. So, yes. Crying Child is, in fact, Afton's son. Your recent post, like a video or a community post? Check. Why did I just search up I just searched up Narrow Raven, and one like the autofill said Narrow Raven 14. Video? Was it the security breach time? Yeah. I do plan on watching that. I need to watch. Oh hey, underscore. I do plan on watching that. I'll add that to my FNaF theories to watch playlist. I'll definitely watch that. I have a lot of videos that I just haven't watched yet, and I really want to, and I have a whole playlist for it. And I have a bunch of people from the server. Their theories are in that playlist. So yeah, I'll watch that. Probably not on stream. I'm gonna prioritize the film theory and the 2 FNaF theories. But if I have time, then maybe I'll watch your video. I also have one of my friends' videos to watch too, so I might just watch those on my own time, or I'll watch them like in FNaF Marathon stream if I have extra time. Film theory video is so mid. That's what I saw people say that earlier too. Yeah, but I will say it. I will watch it. I mean. Okay, I'm gonna pull up all the videos that I gotta watch. I've been streaming for 50 minutes. FNaF. Open link in new tab. Open link in new tab. Film theory.
Give the gift.
Shut up. Shut your bitch ass up. Anyway. What I found funny was how at the beginning of their Invincible video, like the more recent one, the one with Lee, his name is Lee, right? The more recent Invincible theory, he talked about like, will Oliver end up being a villain? And I was like, read the comics. It's not that hard. And then later they're just like, oh yeah, we're not talking about the comics, we're talking about science. And I'm like, this is film theory, not science theory. You're trying to predict... You're in film theory, you're either talking about why things will happen, what will happen, or what did happen that we didn't know. You can't talk about something that you know for a fact either will or will not happen. You know the answer. You can't talk about that. You just have to say, like, yeah, you can't talk about stuff that you already know will happen or know won't happen, because that's just like it doesn't make sense. And like you can make those theories about why something happens, but you can't make a theory asking the question, will this happen? Because you know the answer. Right? Anyway, I love the Invincible comics. Just wanted to throw that out there. Okay, I'm scared. Is Tom going to be in this video, or is it just going to be Lee? So far, so Lee. Yeah, I did used to like film theory, but I only watched like one film theory since Lee took over, and it was that Invincible one, and it was like, nah, dude. It's just Lee. You can't make a oh my god. Okay, listen here, man. This is a video titled, "What did FNaF 2 even tell us about the lore?" So either you're talking about the FNaF movie lore, which is fine. But if he's at all talking about the games, Tom should be there. That's all I'm saying. If he doesn't talk about the games, if he's only talking about the movie, that's fine. But I just wanted to say that Tom should be there if he does talk about the games at all, because it's film theory, not game theory. If he were to talk about the games, it should be a game theory video. But yeah, Circus Baby's in the thumbnail, so I'm guessing maybe he'll talk about, like, I don't know. Maybe he's just gonna talk about where we're going next or something, or like what happened in the past, like that led us to this point. Like Circus Baby existed, Elizabeth exists. Maybe it's about that. I don't know. Anyway. Alright. Film theory. What did FNaF 2 even tell us about the lore? 23 minutes and 23 seconds. So far, I have not heard very good things, and I don't know what to expect from this, but let's go.
Five Nights at Freddy's 2 changed the lore. Yeah, this movie straight up took one look at the games and said, I can do that better, and it might be fixing all of the problems we've had with the timeline because of it. Hello, Internet! Welcome to Film Theory, the show that's possessing your YouTube homepage. The only way to make sure it doesn't destroy the whole website? Open the subscribe button-shaped music box and let her rip. So after years of waiting and more theories than you can count on one hand, the Five Nights at Freddy's 2 movie has finally... Waiting and more theories than you can count on...
1, 2, 3, 4, 5. More than you can count on one hand? Come on, man. Come on, man. That's exactly as many theories as you can count on one hand. Also, isn't this... I could be wrong, but is this the one that was just the recap of all the other ones? Because if it is, then that's only 4 theories. Right? Or are these all just... what, FNaF 2... These are all, like, the FNaF 2, like, base theories, right? Like, the ones that they're like, predicting what's going to happen or something like that, right? Isn't this one just the one recapping the FNaF 1 theories? Because that doesn't count.
Anyway. On On
Math.
one hand, the Five Nights at Freddy's 2 movie has finally hit theaters. I have to say, the culture around this movie really surprised me. People I followed for years for other things came out of the woodwork to express their love for this series with this movie's release, and that's just so much fun. And like, it just really created an environment in the theater that felt like peak 2010s midnight cinema releases. Team Theorist actually did a group outing watching the whole movie together, and we really appreciated the energy of our audience. Also, shout outs to the rad employees.
My audience kind of sucked. None of the people in the audience like really cheered or anything for me, which is kind of sad.
But at the Cinemark Bistro here in Raleigh who talked to me on the way out of the theater. Yeah, here's the theory that I promised we'd make, and sorry I didn't catch your name. My brain was in full theory crafting mode, but thanks for saying hi. But speaking of theory crafting, dude, there is just so much to talk about here. Like, first off, the fact that my friend, former film theorist, and official movie star voice actor Matthew Patrick completely disappeared into his role for this movie. Like, not gonna lie, if I didn't know that Matt were Toy Bonnie in this, I wouldn't have been able to clock it.
Me neither.
In a positive way. But other than that, oh boy, does this movie do a lot for FNaF lore. So much so that when Tom and I had our little huddle talk after the movie came out, we both came away with so many questions and ideas left to explore. Like, what was up with that dream sequence Vanessa had? The puppet seems to have new powers here? What does that mean for the future of the series? And oh god, a second mic has appeared in the movie theater. That right there is surprisingly huge. We have a lot to talk about, loyal theorists, so today I want to go through this movie and its plot to hit the biggest points of discussion and theorize about them. And by the end of our theory today, we're going to have a clear picture of what the future of the FNaF movies is going to look like. Because we're definitely getting like a dozen of these things. But here's the TLDW. The FNaF movies are Scott going back to tell the real story he always wanted to tell and putting the pieces of his mistakes back together again.
I don't
Get
think
your Freddy
so.
masks
I think
ready
it's
and
very
hug an
deliberately
animatronic
its own
chicken, loyal
thing.
theorists. We will always...
Again, I was saying this earlier in the stream. I think the movies can be used for lore, but I don't think they're the end-all be-all. I think they're just kind of telling their own thing. There's very deliberate changes in the movies, and I don't think that everything is meant to be a hint. I think some things are just meant to be different for, like, because he wanted to tell a different story.
Belong to the theorizing. So the film opens in 1982, where we're introduced to a new character named Charlotte Emily attending a birthday party in the original Freddy Fazbear's Pizzeria. This one is different than the location we've seen in the first movie, like we talked about in previous theories. Now, before, we've called this character Charlie because that was her nickname in other franchise material, but for simplicity's sake, and also because this version of the character ends up being way different than any other version of Charlie we see, we're just going to be calling the movie version of this character Charlotte to line up.
I think everybody calls the games one Charlotte too, though, because that's her name. I mean, Charlie is short for Charlotte in the movies and the games, or in the books.
With everything we see in the movie. Overall, she's a bit of a strange kid, has an obsession with the puppet animatronic in this location, and is friends with a young Vanessa Afton. Off in the corner, she sees Afton dressed up as Golden Bonnie lure a kid into the back of the pizzeria, and when she tries to warn the parents at the party, they're honestly pretty huge jerks and ignore her, like comically so. The adults in this movie are just terrible people looking at you, Wayne Knight, the teacher, though the lawyer from the previous movie is back, and you know, at least he was cool. Anyway, because of this,
Yeah.
Charlotte goes back on her own to try to rescue the kid, and successfully gets him away from Afton, only for her to run back onto the pizzeria's stage, scream, and then die. Afton stabbed her off camera, and her body falls into the arms of the marionette puppet, in a genuinely awesome, if depressing, shot. It's also funny because I straight up said in our last theory that it would be cool if like the camera panned up to reveal that Charlotte had been stabbed, and that's exactly what happens. But that wouldn't really make sense with what was being sold as an accident. And yet somehow, in a little bit of a baffling move, it still is sold as an accident. Like, I went to the movie a couple of times and I tried to read through all of the newspapers about the accident that flashed up during the opening credits, and at least the parts that were visible didn't really have an explanation for how Afton convinced people that Charlotte somehow, like, fell onto a knife in her back multiple times. Like, it's a little bit strange. Only one of the articles really said that foul play was suspected, and like, yeah, obviously. But hey, you know, maybe I'm just not super creative. We then flash forward 20 years, confirming our previous theory that these movies take place in the early 2000s. So this one is
That's not a theory, it's literally outright stated in the first movie. Oops. My mistake.
that these movies take place in the early 2000s, so this one is in 2002. Somehow, Mike and Abby's aunt survived the previous movie despite it being heavily implied that she died. I guess Golden Freddy wasn't lying when he said,
"Silly Aunt Jane, she fell asleep."
Anyway, the aunt has been using the story of the animatronics to try to make money, and all of the murders and ghosts and all that jazz have become popular folklore because of that. And I mean like really popular, like almost as if there were a whole series.
I don't think she was doing it to make money. I think she was doing it because she was saying that Mike was crazy and that the animatronics were murderers and stuff.
Really popular video games made
because they attacked her.
How enthusiastic all of the middle and high school aged kids in this film seem to be about Freddy's. But hey, you know, we wouldn't really know anything about that in the real world, huh? Real talk, I do love the acknowledgement of the fan base here. It's very cute. Anyway, things seem to be looking up for Mike and Abby. They're in a new house, Abby's in a new school, and the money troubles they had in the last movie are basically not mentioned here at all. It's also very clear that Mike and Abby are doing a bit better for themselves, though they don't really talk about it. He seems to have started a new job that's let him invest in a new house, so it is a bit of a fixer-upper. Either way, affording a new home like this would have been easier for Mike if he worked with the partner for today's theory, Chime.
Okay, stop.
More cash on top of video, but let's get back into the wild world of Five Nights. So thank you again to Chime for sponsoring this video, but let's get back into the wild world of Five Nights at Freddy's. The animatronics, however, seem to be either broken, or the spirits are gone, or dormant, or something like that. They just aren't really active anymore at all, much to Abby's sadness. Also, Vanessa isn't really doing too well either. She keeps having traumatic flashbacks about her father, which, you know, is understandable.
Am I misremembering? I feel like I remember her just saying that she couldn't find them.
Well, given the decades of abuse and literally being stabbed by him. With Mike's encouragement, Vanessa goes home and tries to confront her memories of her father inside of her head using her dreams, similar to what Mike did with Garrett from the first movie. More or less, this looks like she's using something called lucid dreams to confront her nightmares. If you don't know, a lucid dream is one where you realize that you are asleep and dreaming, and because of that,
again, she's just doing what Mike did.
Want to
I don't
fly?
think you need to explain
Want to
like,
shoot
how
fireballs
how it
out of your
works.
hands? You can. I've only ever had like 2 in my life, and they were super fun. Though, that being said, I hadn't ever really heard of them being used in a therapeutic way like this. I did look into this a little bit, and there was a study from 2023 that examined this idea, and though it acknowledged that it needed to do further research with a larger study and sample size, the initial results were encouraging. So hey, that's neat. We got some scientifically accurate therapy here in FNaF. Anyway, we see Vanessa confront Afton.
Yeah,
in
it
her
happened in the
dream,
first
but
movie
he
too.
seems a bit too strong for her as she reverts to her child self. She runs and hides in his workshop in their home, finding the circus baby animatronic hidden here as well. It then lights up and looks down at her. It's a genuinely creepy moment, and obviously this is significant for a few reasons. So this is the film's version of the circus baby from the Sister Location video game, an animatronic that was haunted by the soul of Elizabeth Afton, daughter of the game's William Afton. So basically the game version of the Vanessa character we have here in the movies. Elizabeth was also the age Vanessa.
I mean, people suggest that it might be the case, but we don't really know that for sure. Like, there's theories that Elizabeth exists in the games too, or in the movies too.
The Vanessa character we have here in the movies. Elizabeth was also the age Vanessa is here in this dream sequence when she got put into the baby animatronic, so this was absolutely
we don't know how
intentional
old she
on
was,
Scott's
but
part.
sure.
Oh, and additionally, in the books, Baby sort of was like Afton's helper, right? So this makes me wonder if he was planning on doing something similar here in the movies. And, you know, the very fact that Vanessa is still alive makes me wonder if Afton gave up on that particular idea, or if something happened that changed his plans. Or hey, maybe someone else got stuffed into Baby. At this point, who knows? Oh, this does also add one small complication to something we saw in the FNaF 1 movie. If you don't remember, we also saw a somewhat similar Springlock animatronic in that first FNaF movie. This was the one that all of the ghost kids wanted to shove Abby into so that she would join them. However, looking back at this thing, it doesn't look a ton like the traditional Baby animatronic, and it borrows some ideas from the Ella animatronic from the Silver Eyes novel. Just to be clear, I would guess that this was intended intended to be Baby originally,
It was
but
not
after the
intended to be
success of
Baby.
that first movie, plans changed
It
and
was
they have
always Ella.
introduced a more game-accurate version of Baby in the film series now. So genuinely...
It may have originally been intended to be Circus Baby, because in the movie novel it has pigtails, but this is very clearly meant to be Ella in the final version of the movie.
No idea if we're ever even going to touch that Ella baby animatronic from the first movie again. It might just be lost to history. Oh, and something else worth pointing out in this scene. After encountering Baby, Afton finds Vanessa and says that she will always be his. She then runs away from Afton and manages to push his dream self over the edge of their stairway in an act of defiance. He falls to the floor, injured, but looks back up at her and says again that she will always be his. This line is later repeated by another character towards the end of the movie, saying that all of Afton's children will always be his, that they can't escape that fate. And what I find interesting here is what isn't said, right? I think that there was a way to incorporate Afton's iconic line about wanting to put things back together right here in this spot. Like, hey, I wanted to put our family back together, even from beyond the grave. So I wonder if this film is going to be tweaking Afton's obsession slightly. Like, instead of wanting to put the broken pieces of his life into animatronics and family back together, Afton is obsessed with controlling his family and animatronics and victims. That would even fit with a lot of what we saw in...
Just reveal that she doesn't push him. I don't remember. Does she push him? He sleeps on a banana.
FNaF 1, where he wanted to control the ghosts of the children in those animatronics, right? Anyway, just a random thought I had. Let's move on. Elsewhere, the plot must continue as a group of paranormal investigators led by a woman named Lisa are invited to come take a look at the original Freddy's location, the one where Charlotte was killed. And who invited him here? Well, a security guard named Mike. But shock, it's not our Mike, but instead a new character named Michael with probably the creepiest face I've ever seen. Like, they really nailed the casting on this one. My guy looks like a Skarsgård. Anyway,
he does,
as they
actually.
explore the building, Lisa finds a music box next to the machinery with the puppet inside and turns it off, causing the marionette to come to life. Yeah, it's been
I mean, the bullet pushed it.
possessed by Charlotte, and the puppet has wireless control over all of the rest of the animatronics in the building. And because of that, you can guess what comes next. All of the paranormal investigators are killed off in fun, awesome ways, while the puppet possesses Lisa's body with special effects that are genuinely creative and creepy. Though interestingly, Michael, who recognizes Charlotte, is spared. Wonder if that'll be significant later. So another thing I wanted to mention here is the fact that the puppet has a brand new power, taking control of human bodies. That was never really something we saw from the puppet in the games, and I'm not gonna lie, it really caught me off guard in the theaters, and not just because the special effects were creepier.
The next Lotto Max Jack.
Not gonna lie, it really caught me off guard in the theaters, and not just because the special effects were creepy or whatever. To me, this seems like a strange choice that Scott is making now to help make other things make sense later.
Yeah, he leaves the building. He's not spared. He escaped. Yeah, I was thinking that too, but
especially with stories like Help Wanted down the road.
I
Those
didn't
games
know if
dealt
I
with
heard
weird
him right or
AI
not,
possession, and going out of his way to introduce that sort of idea now, all of a sudden, that's a lot of work down the road that the FNaF series doesn't need to do. Now awake, the puppet lures Abby to the original location by pretending to be
it's
the
not really AI possession, it's spiritual possession, so...
spirits of the FNaF 1 animatronics, befriending her and helping her with some school projects. Realizing what's going on and recognizing
What did he say?
lures Abby to the original location by pretending to be the spirits of the FNaF 1 animatronics, befriending her and helping her with some school projects. Realizing what's going on and recognizing the work of Charlotte, Vanessa also returns to the original location. It's here where she reveals that the puppet uses that wireless technology I was just talking about that is way ahead of its time to control all of the animatronics in the building. And I mean, it is just super crazy advanced. Y'all, I can't connect to my Wi-Fi if there are like 2 walls between my phone and the router. This is wild stuff. I know that technology in FNaF has always been ridiculously advanced, but when you see it in live action and something specifically confirmed to be set in 2002 when cell phones looked like this, man, it's just a bit of a gobsmack. animatronic. But Vanessa also locked down the animatronics using a special firewall so they can't leave the location, something the puppet wants to do to get revenge on all of the parents who didn't listen to her and caused her death. Why she doesn't blame Afton, or at the very least like the Golden Bunny for her death instead of the parents, who knows? It's actually something I legitimately left the theater trying to wrap my head around, so if you have any ideas, please leave them in the comments.
Yeah, I have the same, that's one of the bigger problems I have with the video. I'm sorry, this video is almost done. Well, there's 10 minutes left. He hasn't really talked about anything.
The puppet threatens Abby and forces Vanessa to give her the code to set them free so they can go attack the parents. Fun fact, but this was actually the scene from the script pages Scott released last year for the 10th anniversary of FNaF. I originally didn't think that this was the correct page and wrote it off because, according to the script, it was only going to be happening on page 25, which was way too early for this to happen in the movie. Like seriously, even in the final product, page 25 is ridiculously early and does not line up with the time at all. I really have to wonder if Scott changed the page numbers to hide this, or if this was like something from a different draft of the script, or man, who knows at this point. Anyway, around this same time, Mike meets Charlotte's dad, Henry, and gets a bit of an exposition dump, and then heads to the original pizzeria where he frees Vanessa. She heads out to stop the animatronics as Mike basically plays the actual FNaF 2 video game IRL, and also somehow gets snuck up on by all of the animatronics like multiple times. They make such a big deal about how loud the footsteps of these things are, but they jump scare Mike right next to his face. It's classic horror movie logic at its finest. Anyway, after several scary scenes, the animatronics are all eventually shut down, but the puppet possesses Abby's body. But thankfully, Mike is able to free her with another music box he conveniently got from Henry. But then Michael shows up with the reactivated animatronics and reveals that he is, dun dun dun, Michael Afton, Vanessa's brother. So this right here is actually a pretty big deal because for the longest time we thought that Mike Schmidt and Michael Afton were the same character in the games. If this is Scott officially separating those characters, at least in this canon, that makes a lot of things make way more sense. But that is a discussion for another channel.
In the games, no it doesn't.
I'm pretty sure Tom is going to be talking about that in a video over at our sister location Game Theory pretty soon, so go check that out. Either way, Michael wants to continue.
It actually doesn't. If it is the case in the games that they're different, it actually doesn't make anything make more sense. It actually makes them make way less sense.
Father's work here, both in murder and in animatronics, which I suppose explains his plan.
It's not a lore hint.
It's a bit unclear, but it seems like Michael wanted to wake up Charlotte, or has been trying to, or something. Like, he says, "Welcome back, Charlotte," when she wakes up, but hasn't been successful in bringing her back himself. Like, he seems shocked when Lisa actually manages to wake Charlotte up. But again, that's strange since it was pretty obvious that the music box was keeping her asleep. Whatever he was doing here, it's just, it was very unclear. And it seems like it was setting up something down the road rather than making total sense in the here and now. Anyway, Michael wants Vanessa to join him and Charlotte in their rampage since they will, quote, always belong to Afton. But Vanessa refuses. And just before our main characters bite the dust, the FNaF 1 animatronics show up like they're hopping out of portals at the end of Avengers Endgame, defeating the toy animatronics and saving the day, but sacrificing themselves to do so. Michael runs away as Golden Freddy explains that they won't be able to hold Afton's spirit in stasis anymore before disappearing into the afterlife. Gonna be real, that kinda took me aback. I'm surprised that they'd let the original animatronic spirit kids go this early in the series. Like, I guess maybe they were just afraid that the actors would be growing up and it wouldn't be consistent, maybe? But I wonder what big plans they have coming as a consequence of this. Mike then turns around and basically dumps Vanessa, telling her that he can't trust her.
They could just stick around, like, without us knowing until the third movie, but, like, I mean, we don't know for sure that they're fully, that they're fully gone. Like, technically they could have just, like, ended up almost getting set free, and then Afton was like, ha ha ha. No. Like in the fourth closet, right? So.
And that she should stay away from him and his family. This was absolutely ridiculous, to be honest, and my whole theater was like, dude, what? This understandably devastates Vanessa, who basically just chose Mike and Abby over her own family, and allows for the puppet to come in and possess her body, which is fascinating. It almost feels like they're moving the storyline with Vanny and Vanessa from Security Breach up to these new movies. Either way, cue the end credits and post-credit scene showing a bunch of random guys finding Springtrap and picking him up for a new FNaF-themed horror animatronic that they're building. And then a voicemail from Henry revealing his origins as Afton's business partner and then his death at the hands of something? Probably the puppet. It was a little unclear, but it was
Who says it
probably
was his
the
death?
puppet. Man, so this movie was
I am so confident he did not die.
a lot, and a lot happens in it. But my biggest takeaway? They are taking these movies in a direction I just did not see coming. See, if you've been watching the theories here on the channel for a while, you'll know that both me and Matt thought that they were going to be combining and simplifying a lot of ideas and even whole storylines and games. That's why Mike wasn't related to Afton, or why Security Breach era ideas and characters showed up in FNaF 1. That would then lead to the FNaF 3 movie being more of a Security Breach inspired story with the glam rock animatronics
I don't
and
think so.
Pizzaplex. But this movie, more or less, threw that completely out the window. Oh,
Yeah.
not only is Mike Schmidt a character, but so is Michael Afton, and in fact we're going to make a joke about their names being the exact same. Oh, you thought that the FNaF 3 game might be a bit too weird and small scale to adapt to film? Too bad! That's basically exactly what they're setting up for the next movie. Deal with it! And then
Yeah, but
they're
they also set up FNaF 6, so...
adding in more ideas on top of that, like the puppet being able to possess humans. Scott is going big with these films, and I just gotta respect that, man. But while that didn't turn out how I expected, other things did. Particularly what I said in our last theory before this movie came out about how these movies are really about Scott reclaiming his story and retelling it in the way that he wants to. You probably all know at this point that early FNaF games weren't really planned out. Scott was flying by the seat of his pants, riding off of some unexpected success, and some odd choices were made because of that.
2, 3, and 4 were not planned by FNaF 1. 3 was probably planned by FNaF 2, and 4 wasn't fully planned by FNaF 3 because FNaF 3 was meant to be the finale. But they weren't like just completely improvised, and they weren't just like thrown together randomly. Like they were still like, he still like planned things out, I think.
Lines got funky because some characters had to exist and to be active and do conflicting things decades apart. You know, that sort of thing. But now that Scott is getting more or less a second pass on this story here, all of a sudden that confusion can be put to rest. And a good example of that, the fact that FNaF 3 is going to be adapted, but in the same time frame as these first two stories. If you don't remember, the FNaF 3 video game took place like 30 years after the closure of the original Fazbear location in a sort of theme park horror attraction based off of the folklore of the murders. It was about the nostalgia that Freddy's built up in that universe, similar to Chuck E. Cheese here in ours. And though it doesn't seem connected, this is also why I believe that they focused so heavily on FazFest here in the FNaF 2 movie when it didn't really go anywhere. Like, that was weird, right? They mentioned this big festival event dedicated to Freddy's, and we do see it very briefly, but it's not really a central focus of the movie. It's basically in like 2 scenes. Like, it almost felt tacked on, right? I thought that that was an interesting choice. Like, I would have set the climax of the film there if I were writing this instead of the Schmidt's house. But looking back, that wasn't the purpose of this in this story. It was setting up that there was this nostalgic tinted love for the Freddy's IP so that the Fazbear's Fright attraction could make sense for the FNaF 3 movie in the same part of the timeline with Mike and Abby and Vanessa. Now, there doesn't need to be a time jump, which makes the game timeline so difficult to parse. And that wasn't the only thing being used here to set up future stories. Like, all of those lucid dreams with Mike and Vanessa in these first 2 movies, that's absolutely setting up FNaF 4 and all of its weirdness and dreams, showing us that not only
kind of, but also I don't I mean, I think it's definitely meant to reference FNaF 4, but I don't think that it's actually like that they're setting up a FNaF 4 movie. I feel like they're going to end it at 3, but...
Are dreams significant for characters in these films? But that you can interact with ghosts inside of them. Similar thing by introducing Michael Afton here, setting him up for a story arc that could include the stories of the games FNaF 4 through 7. Especially...
I doubt it, considering in those games he's not, like, evil. So, like, I feel like it makes more sense that this is just not the same version of Michael that we see in the games. Because, like, I mean, obviously it's a different universe, but I mean, like... he doesn't act like Michael does in the games. Like, they're very different characters. So him being in those games doesn't really make sense, because he doesn't have the same personality at all. Like, for the movies, I mean. Like, it doesn't make sense that they would adapt those.
Josh Hutcherson decides that he wants to hang up the security guard jacket after the third film. Which actually brings me to my next point here, the big one. So, if the movies are pretty much adapting the games one-to-one as they appear to be doing now, that means that we can split up how they're going to be doing these stories into, like, 3 eras. Or rather, kind of 3 places where they could end if they so choose to and they stop making money. There's the original trilogy, FNaF 1 through 3, which I'll call the Mike trilogy for the films. Then there's FNaF 4 through 7, which I'll call the Michael arc. And then everything after that, with Help Wanted and Security Breach and all that jazz. We'll call that the Mimic series. That is going to be the future of these movies, with Mike and Afton's story concluding with FNaF 3, Michael becoming the central figure in the next series, and then, well, who knows what they'll do with the Mimic stuff. That's gonna be so weird. Ironically though, by expanding these movies out again and doing one film for each game like they appear to be doing, that creates an entirely new problem because of earlier decisions. See, I wonder if Vanessa being in these early movies happened because Scott and Blumhouse weren't sure how many of these they were going to get. I stand by our theory that early on, they wanted to have as much recognizable FNaF stuff in one movie as possible to really get butts in seats. But now, how the hell are they going to do Security Breach if Vanessa is here in...
I don't think they will, because, like I said, Scott and Matthew Lillard both said that this was planned to be a trilogy. Sorry about my mic. They said that this was planned to be a trilogy. They could do more movies after, but I don't think it will follow this storyline because, well, what he's not mentioning is how the end of the FNaF 2 movie very clearly sets up FNaF 6 with Henry's, like, monologue and stuff. Like, obviously it's not, like, his monologue from the games, but, like, he says, leaving Dead Space 321 in the same, like, kind of, like, audio style, I guess. Like, the same audio quality. It's the same. It's meant to be FNaF 6. It's clearly setting that up for the next movie. So it seems to me like both FNaF 3 and FNaF 6 will happen at the same time. Rather than being 2 separate events, it seems like the horror attraction will be the movie version of FNaF 6. And so in that case, it just makes more sense that they're not continuing after this. They could do FNaF 4, maybe, but I feel like it doesn't really make sense because, first of all, those are just nightmares. It doesn't really make sense to make that a movie. Second of all, I don't think that they're going to make any more after 3. Again, they could make more movies, but I don't think it'll be based on the games. I think it'll be like its own contained stories, not following these characters. He mentioned earlier in this video how Charlotte possessing Vanessa could create the movie version of Vanny, and now he's saying that they can do Vanny and Security Breach in like 20 years. Like, I think if they're making Vanny here, then they're not making Vanny again later, right? It just doesn't make sense to say that they're going to keep going all the way up to the end. Like, they're making one game per movie, yes, but they're not making one game per... Sorry, they're making a movie per game, but they're not making one movie for every single game, right? I think that's kind of clear. I don't think that they're going to make every single game into a movie. That just... It doesn't make sense with what Scott or Matthew Lillard said, and it just feels really weird. And, like, I don't think it would do very well.
These stories. Like, sure, they have set up a sort of Vanny-Vanessa relationship between the movie Vanessa and Charlotte, but I just can't see that lasting past the next movie or the conclusion of Charlotte's story. They might just have to introduce a new character in the Security Breach movies that fulfills the same purpose. And if they really want to mess with us, they'll even name her Elizabeth. Oh, and also, they have to do something with Garrett in the future, right? Like, it just felt like they just dropped him completely for this movie, but he has to show up again, right? Like, hey, maybe if Golden Freddy is gone and no longer the vengeful spirit, maybe Charlotte can take on that role and Garrett can kind of be the protector of souls that Charlie was in the games. Or, man, maybe at this point I'm just grasping for silly straws. But hey, that's just a theory. A film theory.
There weren't very many theories there.
Up next on...
I'm not sure that was a theory. I feel like it's, there's very little theory there, but, you know. Surely, surely not. That's surely not going to happen. Yeah, I don't know about that, man. I feel like there's a lot of stuff you can bring up for a FNaF 2 movie theory. largely stuff that I'm going to bring up. The idea of Mike Schmidt being Michael Afton, you could actually make that a fully fledged theory, but not for film theory. So I feel like for a game like this, you can make theories of where the movies will be going, but you can't really theorize about what it means for the games. So it's like, it makes sense that they didn't talk about that stuff here. But for the movies themselves, like for where they could be going, there's so much stuff you could talk about. You could talk about them setting up FNaF 3, which he did. You could talk about them setting up FNaF 6, which he did not. You can talk about how they said it would be a trilogy, so they probably won't go past 3, which again, they did not talk about that. They just said that they're going to go all the way to Security Breach, which doesn't make sense. And then they said, and then they didn't bring up the connections to the books, which were very prominent in the first movie, are very prominent here, and will probably be very prominent in the next movie. They didn't talk about that stuff. There's a lot of stuff to talk about with where the movies could be going, and they just didn't. And that's just weird. I'm not a big fan of what they did with this video. It's just like, it feels like they didn't talk about anything that was worth talking about. They did a summary, which people watch the movie so they can see that. You don't need to summarize the movie. You can do a short summary at the beginning, but don't interrupt every few seconds to be like, oh yeah, this is a lore thing, and then not expand on that lore thing. Just do a short, like, 2-minute summary, maybe, and then after that, actually talk about the things that you would have talked about, that you did talk about in this summary. Talk about those at the end, after the summary, and go more in detail about them. And he just kind of misinterprets a lot of stuff. Like the idea that there will be a Security Breach movie, saying for sure that Vanessa is Elizabeth. You could easily say that Elizabeth could exist, or like theorize about why Vanessa and Elizabeth would be the same, or why they wouldn't be, rather than just kind of blindly assuming it. And I'm not saying that Elizabeth does exist in the movies, I'm just also not saying that she doesn't exist in the movies, right? So you can bring that up as a topic. Talk about how there's evidence that she could be and there's evidence that she won't be. Talk about that rather than just blindly assuming that they are the same and then being like, oh yeah, they just didn't talk about that. Maybe we'll see that later or whatever. Like, it just feels weird that they didn't do that. They didn't expand more on it, right? And saying that Ella was meant to be Circus Baby clearly was not. It was always meant to be Ella. You can tell from the design it is very much Ella. It is not Baby. So it just, I don't know. It was not a very good theory. I'm sorry. But yeah, that was my full reaction on that. I like how these two videos are called like basically the same thing. Did the FNaF 2 movie solve the timeline? Did FNaF 2 solve the game lore? Okay. Alright, well, this is what I'm gonna do next. I think there's vacuuming going on in my house now, so I'm not going to react to this just yet. I'll chill and talk to chat for a little bit. Security Breach movie is pointless considering the entire point of Security Breach is a full story progression. I mean, to be fair, they did The Last of Us, so I wouldn't be surprised if they adapted Security Breach. I like how Sandwich Man just said film theory makes me cringe. That's why I can't watch theories online. Fair enough. I get it. I'll be right back, guys. Hold on. I'm back. I'm gonna leave my headphones off for a little bit because they hurt my neck. And also I'm not watching anything right now, so for right now. Anyway, it's just like Christmas season, so just some like cleaning and stuff going on in my house. That's why there's some background noise. Sorry about that. Anyway, I'm not gonna watch the theory until that stuff is done. It's not happening this second, but like I'm gonna wait a little longer before I continue watching the theories. I'm just gonna talk to chat for a little bit. If anything else happens, if I'm needed to leave, or if there's too loud of talking, I will disappear again. Anyway, or I'll just mute my mic if I need to. I'll actually play the music too. Go down to about 20. There we go. When do you think the Mimic was still sealed under the Pizzaplex? I have no idea. Either it's the same Mimic as from Secret of the Mimic, and it was there the whole time, or it was sealed, or it could be like a similar thing to the Mimic epilogues. Even though I don't think those are in the games, I could see something similar happening there. A vacuum. Only reason I'm not watching theories right now is just because I'm turning those into videos. So I might just, so that's why I'm just like not doing that now. Go be 1020. I'd rather not have that. I'd rather not have my 1020 footage have a vacuum in the background. I think the Mimic was sealed right after security breach. Mind if I ask you FNaF 4 questions? Sure. Go ahead. Wouldn't be surprised if Vanessa was an animatronic. See, I would be inclined to think that. I just find it weird that they wouldn't find that out based on the fact that she was in the hospital. Other than that, I feel like it could make sense. Maybe there's a reason, though. Like, maybe she did go to the hospital, they found out, and they kept it a secret for some reason. Maybe Afton's, like, maybe Afton has some sort of control that caused them, like, to stop, hinting at it or whatever. I don't know. Like, so they didn't, like, expose it. I don't know, for whatever reason. When do you think Security Breach takes place? You asked me because of your video? Oh, wait, I forgot to loop the music, my bad. When does Security Breach take place? See, I think FNaF 3 is 2020. Sorry, is 2015, but I think FNaF 6 is probably 2023. Just because of the HRY thing. It doesn't have to be. It just makes more sense to me. In which case, I think that the Pizzaplex probably opened in. Well, I think it's been. Although the Fast Life magazines are weird, I do think that they are meant to imply that the Pizzaplex has been open for 5 years. So that makes me think 2035 is the most likely option. Just because, like, the Mimic timeline doesn't, like, restrict it anymore. With the Mimic timeline, it would have to be, like, 2019 is the Storyteller, 2024 is Security Breach. But that also doesn't match the calendar, right? So, in which case 2029 would have to be when Security Breach takes place. That could be the case. It could have, like, opened in 2024, like right after FNaF 6. That could happen. It's just, like, because there's no restrictions on the timeline anymore besides, like, the calendar thing. Like, there's no restrictions for exactly, like, when in the timeline it has to be. So yeah, like, it could be in 2029, but, like, the Pizzaplex can open that soon. It's just, like, it doesn't have to, you know? So I could see it being 2023. Calendar's a stock asset. Doesn't it literally have, like, a Pizzaplex logo on it? Like, I feel like it's a very intentional detail to add. Nessie 97. I don't think that's her birth year. I think that's just her birthday. Jesus. It does work with 1997. Yeah, like, it can work with 1997. So, like, alright, see you, Sanchman. In FNaF AR, there's the emails that say, like, it's 2019, 2020, 2021. I don't trust that, because I think it's just that's literally just the date that it is in real life, not the in-universe ones, right? So I could see if FNaF 6 is like 2017, even 2015, then she can be 23 in 2020. That's fine. It just makes it feel, like, weird. Like, I don't think it needs to be that. My calendar stock asset isn't. What? Doesn't the calendar match? I mean, the calendar doesn't only match 2018 though. So why would it have to be 2018 though? What is this? Stock is back. The calendars in 2018. Okay, hold on. Hey guys, I'm gonna just keep my mic muted and I'm gonna play 1020 mode in FNaF 2. You guys can keep talking about theories in chat. Enjoy.